Hey minions, welcome to Crank It Up. I'm Jim Price, and on this episode of Action Awareness, I want to talk about some Enchanted Evening of the Mages. The Mage's mechanic is to discard cards for powerful effects, which is well represented in this card. Some Enchanted Evening states, discard any number of cards, play an extra minion of power 3 or less for each card you discard. We've had plenty of actions that play an extra minion before, and if you try to use some Enchanted Evening that way, like a summon, you are not only wasting its potential, but wasting cards. Growing up playing a lot of fantasy games, I can't really tell you what the difference is between a mage and a wizard, and if there is one, leave me in blissful ignorance. But my point is, if a wizard can summon a minion without discarding a card, surely a mage could do it, without discarding or the power cap. Instead, I see this card not as a summon, but what it is, a chance to make some really big plays. This card is deceptively powerful. Ordinarily, a few mage cards underwhelm me. For example, the mages have to discard a card to destroy a minion of power 3 or less, which Seeing Stars can do. The reward doesn't always scale with the cost. But we often talk about how cards like Angry Mob and Bulking Stew are extremely powerful because they can dump your whole hand and give a lot of power unexpectedly. But consider this, almost every minion generates at least 2 power. So given the same hand with Bulking Stew, let's compare the two results. With Bulking Stew, every card is 1 power, and every 2 cards is 2 power. With some Enchanted Evening, every 2 cards is at least 2 power, so long as one of those cards is a minion. Granted, if you had an odd number of cards remaining, Bulking Stew would generate 1 more power. But, by playing minions, you not only get at least 2 power per card, but you also get the benefit of their ability, which often equates to more power, and almost always something useful. This also creates a dependency on those cards being minions, but given that most factions are split 50-50, it's not hard to discard 1 action for every minion you have. Furthermore, the minions can be power 3, so it's not a strict correlation that every 2 cards is 2 power because it could be more. Fortunately, the mages have 3 power minions in the class that is normally a 4 with the Happy Zapper. This gives the mages more candidates to play with some Enchanted Evening, and the truth is, unless the circumstances were extreme or you're about to win, you should not be discarding your 4s or 5s. They provide way more value as your regular minion play, obviously, so being able to play them as an extra minion is great. Looking more at Happy Zapper has a better exchange rate than both cards. 1 card for 2 power. So this doesn't have to be a strict dump of all your cards, because that may not be the most effective. In fact, you should be extremely strategic about how many cards you choose to play. The specifics of some Enchanted Evening require you to discard all your cards up front, but the plays you get are generic plays rather than referring to specific instances of cards, which means that they are bankable and can be played later in the turn as long as it is still Phase 2. You should hold on to at least 1 card for a Wand Whiz because that extra action can prove vital. In fact, even the minion play could be important, as it converts the card that you would have discarded for a minion of power 3 into a minion of any power. This is important if you are playing the common pairing of Mage Ghosts, because that minion can be Spectre and he can be from the discard pile, essentially saving you a card and giving you more to work with. But when I'm not playing Mage Ghosts, I like to use that extra action for Recover Arcane Wisdom to draw back up to 5 cards. This can let you deplete your cards with the Happy Zapper for more power before you finish playing your minions, or you can discard more cards with Wand Whiz to queue up more plays. Because the discarding happens up front, every single card matters. This creates a bit of a drawback, as ideally you'd like to start with 10 cards, but the mages, who are built on discarding, have a tough time getting there unless they are specifically withholding plays. So we need to find other ways to do more with less. Mage Ghosts are the combo everyone always talks about, but this card works really well with zombies. Naturally, discarding the Tenacious Z's is its own reward, but if you have their coming to get you on a base, this can net you an extra card, because the card you discard can be the card you play with this action. Unfortunately, it only works once per turn. But if you can queue up some extra minion plays with Wand Whiz, you can play a Gravedigger to pull a Gravedigger to pull another minion, playing many of the minions you just discarded. Additionally, if you can net an extra action, using a card like Across the Divide, or Not Enough Bullets, lets the cards you discarded be both the cost and the reward, basically playing themselves. This is actually a great card to be preceded by a tech center, since it not only pushes you above 10 cards, but you actually have the means to play them all. The hoverbots are the perfect candidates for some Enchanted Evening, as they can generate even more power with the minions they reveal, minions that can be played on any base. Playing a Wand Wiz to give you that extra action is well worth it. You can start with a Fixer or Reclaimer and play a Wand Wiz on your biggest base, drawing many cards and scatter them appropriately. This makes for an easy 2-base Microbot Alpha play, if not more. If you can manage to get a second Wand Wiz to play a second action, which is another tech center, have fun playing nearly every card in your deck. Some Enchanted Evening is not, by any stretch of the imagination, a straightforward card to play. It requires a lot of orchestration and draws much of its value from the Mage cards that are played in conjunction. It is easier to just discard cards and get power, much like Embiggen does, and that's in the same faction. So why would you play both, as it's hard to get that many cards? Is some Enchanted Evening even worth it? I believe so, and it's because there are times when you want a singularly powerful minion, and there are times when you want an army of smaller ones. In addition to the bases in play being a factor, it's harder to deal with multiple small minions from a special's perspective. A singularly powerful minion can be kicked off a base, or destroyed at the last moment, and if you put all your stock into that minion, you can come up short or empty, which is terrible because you used all your cards for a big play that backfired. But if you can spread out, it makes it much harder to manipulate at the last moment. Yes, there are ways with combinations of cards, but they are limited. Finally, this doesn't really need to be said, but this is one of the easiest ways to bring out the Cream Puff Man. It's yet another card that can empty your hand instantly while providing value on multiple bases. This is important as it lets you use the Cream Puff Man for 5 power to break a base, then bring it back next turn without being completely wiped off the board. Personally, I like the challenge of orchestrating this card correctly. I like how it ties into several of the Mage cards together for a big play, and then it can allow you to stay off the board, avoiding power creep, and then explode on your turn. This isn't a card for everybody, but I find it to be a lot of fun, and can even be more powerful than cards like Bulking Stew or Angry Mob. This is definitely the most complex Mage card, but don't sleep on its hidden power, as it can be devastating if you plan accordingly. And because of the extended value this creates, and the fact that it can attack multiple bases, it doesn't have to be a card you simply play at the end of the game. I've absolutely played it mid-game with success, and my turns just took a little bit longer. What do you think of some Enchanted Evening? Let me know in the comments. That's it for this week. Thanks for watching. Be sure to like and subscribe. Let's shut it down.